Let's turn to the football. The Prime Minister, leader of the opposition, Sir Ed Davey, Nigel Farage, all say it's wrong that the fans of the Israeli club Maccabi Tel Aviv should be banned from attending a match in Birmingham. Why this morning does the ban still stand?
Well, look, we are working with the relevant authorities on this issue. I think the principle here, Trevor, is we do not want a situation where people of a particular faith or from a particular country can't come to a football match because of their faith, because of where they're coming from. And so the best outcome that we can, and the outcome we want to see is that this match goes ahead as normal with all of the fans there. This was obviously an operational concern that the police had. I think it's important to proceed sensitively here. We're working with the police and the relevant authorities to ensure the match can go ahead with all the fans from both teams attending.
Well, there are two questions here. First of all, has anybody in government actually considered whether this is legal? Because looking back to a previous existence of mine, I suspect that banning Israeli fan or the fans of an Israeli club might be unlawful under the Equality Act because it applies a condition to a particular group of people.
Well, look, I'm not sort of, I don't know about that question, but I think the question really for us is to make sure that the match can go ahead with all of the fans there.
All right.
And that's what we're working towards. I think, you know, from across the political spectrum, people said it was not the right decision. But we've got to understand the police make operational decisions about matters. We now are working with them, with the local authorities and others.
And the question that I think many people will be asking is, there may be operational decisions, there might be resources, but there is a major matter of principle here, which everybody agrees. You guys are the government.
Yes.
Police are answerable to the government. Why hasn't it been decided that whatever it takes, the principle of equality and freedom should be the thing that matters most here?
Well, I am saying that's the principle that matters.
So what you're telling me is that come what may, Maccabi Tel Aviv fans will
I'm not going to say come what may, but I'm giving you a very, very clear indication of what we are working towards, which is that, you know, the fans from both teams can attend the match.
OK, well, let me just put it this way. Who does everybody think is at risk here? Is it the Tel Aviv Maccabi fans, or Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, or is it the people in Birmingham who are at risk from those fans? How's this been explained?
Well, look, my understanding, as I understand it, the police make these decisions about, you know, could there be public safety issues associated with a match? And that's the basis of the decision. I think we saw some issues at an
we live in a police state. You guys are in charge. Why aren't you telling the police whatever they need to do, they must do?
I think we're saying very clearly, Trevor, that we want, as I've said a number of times, the match to go ahead with all of the fans attending. I think in any of these questions of public safety, football matches, and after all, you know, there's kind of, you know, this isn't the first football match where, you know, issues have been raised. You've got to work with the relevant local authorities, the police authorities, to find a way forward, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, look, there's another separate piece to this puzzle. The petition that was launched by the local MP, Ayoub Khan, independent MP, to have the match banned or moved to another country was signed by 3,987 individuals. The petition says, I'm quoting here, "This is not a normal match." And one reason that's given is that the Maccabi fans are arriving in, I'm quoting again, Aston, a diverse and predominantly Muslim community. Is Aston now a no-go area for Jews?
No, and it can't be. And I'm very, very clear about that. And look, I believe we as a country pride ourselves on our diversity, but also our tolerance and our hatred of prejudice, frankly. And so we cannot have a situation where any area is a no-go area for people of a particular religion or from a particular country. And we've got to stamp out all forms of prejudice, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, wherever we find them.
Well, this Member of Parliament gets together a petition, 4,000 odd people sign it. And as far as one can make out, at this moment, whatever you're working towards, at this moment, he has created a situation where whatever it would be, 10,000 or 1,000 or 10,000 Israeli fans cannot come into this area. And he is specific that part of the reason is that this is a predominantly Muslim community.
Well, look, I profoundly...
Is he in any way justified?
No. I profoundly disagree with that approach, with what is being said in that petition, because that cannot be the basis on which our country operates. And look, I actually think for the vast majority of people and the vast majority of places in our country, it isn't the way we operate. So let's not sort of take one petition and say it paints a picture of our country. I don't think it is the fair picture of our country.
Well, he won an election on this. We've heard recently Robert Jenrick on his views on Handsworth as essentially a community which
he
is
said there weren't white people, as I understand it.
Yeah, but what I think Jenrick was trying to say was that this was a community which in some ways is segregated, has its own values. And the reason I'm asking you about this MP, this is who they voted for in this area, and he is saying, in terms, that the problem here is that this is a Muslim community, and this team and its fans are in some way alien.
The vast majority of Muslim people in this country would disassociate themselves from those remarks, frankly, Trevor. And look, integration is, as you know, but as well as I do, because of your work on these questions, integration is not something you can ever take for granted, and it's something you always have to keep working on. But, I do think there's something important here, which is not to talk down our country or suggest that somehow our country, to paint a picture of it which is so far from the truth. That's not the way I think about Britain.
OK. As a person of Jewish heritage, do you detect a whiff of anti-Semitism here?
I don't know about this petition. I think we've always got to be vigilant against anti-Semitism, and I think the reason why Keir Starmer and others were right to call this out is we can never have a situation where people, because they happen to support an Israeli team, and obviously many of them be Jewish, many of the fans will be Jewish, somehow are kind of barred from coming to the UK or barred from supporting their team. And vigilance against anti-Semitism, so the tragic events in Manchester that we saw, we have to redouble our efforts against all forms of prejudice and all forms of hatred.
Well, let me put it another way. So, there are lots of football teams in from different countries who have been in some kind of ruck or another, hooligans. And a lot of our own football teams, including the one I myself support, have a history of this. Do you think that the particular issue that has been raised about this team and this match is in any way rooted in anti-Semitism?
Well, I don't know about who the question of who's raising it. I definitely don't think that's the police are simply trying to ensure, the police's concern will be around public order and public safety. I'm sure that's what the local authority concern is. But what we can't do, and this is why it's important to do everything we can to make sure the match can go ahead with fans of all teams, is make any set of people from any race, from any religion, from any ethnic background feel unwelcome in Britain. That is not the principle that I believe in. It's not the principle you believe in or the British people believe in.
All right, let's talk about your particular area of responsibility. You've announced this morning that you've got a big plan for green jobs. Last June, the then Shadow Chancellor said that there would be 650,000 new green jobs created partly by the National Wealth Fund. Is in your manifesto. This morning, you're promising 400,000 new green jobs by 2030. What happened to the other 250,000?
This is about clean energy specifically. If you look at net zero as a whole, then the promise stands. And what's so exciting about what we're unveiling this morning is so many people in our country, Trevor, have been asking this question for a long time, which is, where are the good jobs of the future going to come from? What's the job my son or daughter can do in the future? This is the answer. Clean energy jobs, working on nuclear power stations, working on offshore wind, working on carbon capture. And this goes to the heart of what I think this government's mission is, which is to change our economy so it doesn't just work for the wealthiest in our society, but it works for everybody, and answers these fundamental questions people have about Britain and the good jobs at good wages that people want to see.
All right, well, let's unpack some of that.
Yeah.
You're promising all these jobs, but you're starting by closing 2 refineries, Grangemouth and Lindsay Oil, that your union friends, who get a big shout-out in your announcement today, say could be retooled to produce green fuel. Isn't that self-defeating?
On Grangemouth, that closed because of decisions that were made by the company, and on the most recent refinery, Prax, we are still working to find a future for that site. But let me make
So Grangemouth could be open, but it will presumably it'll just be a port.
What I'm saying about the Lindsay Oil refinery, and look, when anyone loses their job, it's a tragedy. Is that this is to do with two different private owners who made these decisions on the refinery. But as far as Prax, the most recent one, is concerned, we are doing everything we can to find a future for that site. But I think there's a sort of bigger picture here, which is we do need to create these jobs that can answer the question that people have about our energy sector. Where are these energy sector jobs going to come from? And we want to do as much as we can to preserve jobs in oil and gas and elsewhere, and we want to create these jobs of the future as well.
Jobs for whom? Many of these jobs are that you've cited, and you specifically say in your release that they are plumbers, electricians, and so on. They are what's called shortage occupations. They are tending to be filled these days by immigrant workers. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to take those occupations off the shortage list so they have to be filled by British workers? Why would an employer choose a newly trained, even if you manage to get them through in the next year, electrician or plumber, when he or she could get an experienced worker from abroad, probably at lower rates?
What we're going to do is we're going to train up people in this country. Look, we're also unveiling today, as part of this plan, 5 new clean energy technical excellence colleges, training 20,000 people over the coming years to fill these jobs. And, I actually think I'm much more optimistic than your question implies.
Well, it's not a matter of being optimistic, it's a matter of being realistic. Why would an employer pay for a newly qualified and inexperienced worker who's probably going to be more expensive when he or she could get somebody from abroad?
Well, hang on. There are lots of people in Britain who want to do
Unless
this work.
Unless you're going to stop them doing that.
There are lots of people in Britain who want to do the question of shortage occupations is a narrowly circumscribed set of things. But there's lots of people in Britain...
Yeah, but the jobs you've talked about are all on that list.
There's lots of people in Britain who want to do these jobs, who are looking...
Why aren't they doing them now?
Who are looking for these... Well, because the jobs haven't been created yet. I mean, look, this is because of a Labour government that these jobs are happening, Trevor.
Okay.
It's because of our... Let me make the point.
Why don't you just tell me that, as Gordon Brown once said, these are going to be British jobs for British workers?
We absolutely are going to do everything we can to make sure that these jobs go to workers from Britain. Now, of course, you have exceptions where you have specific things that can't be filled, where people come from abroad, but the absolute intention, the absolute motivation here, and look...
But I don't understand how you're going to compel employers to employ people who are more expensive and less experienced.
I don't accept that it's going to be more expensive. And look, it's not about compelling people, Trevor. Look, at the moment there are 400,000 of these clean energy jobs in the economy. As a result of our plans on nuclear, on wind, on carbon capture, we're going to be expanding their jobs. And I actually disagree with you that somehow there aren't people in Britain wanting to do these jobs. There are people in Britain.
I'm not saying that.
And nor do I think that most employers necessarily want to bring in foreign labour. They want the British people who can do these jobs, and we're going to make sure that they're there.
One other element of this plan is that these are all largely infrastructure jobs, building infrastructure. One of the issues that's been raised, of course, is China's involvement in our infrastructure. You shut the Chinese out of the Sizewell site, essentially. Are you going to put the renewables strategy in Chinese hands, wind turbines, all of that? Or are they going to be...
We want to build our own domestic supply chains. Look, the point here is we haven't built enough in Britain for a very, very long time. And when you look across the country at what's happening, the Isle of Wight onshore wind blade factory, the Siemens factory producing offshore wind turbines, a new cable factory in Scotland. What you're seeing springing up across Britain, town by town, city by city, is us building our own supply chain.
They build the largest number of wind turbines, most advanced wind turbines in China. There are some built in Denmark. Are you going to have a British preference for the manufacture of these kinds of infrastructure projects?
I think we absolutely want a British preference. Yes. Look, the important thing about this government is that we've changed the attitude of the past. The attitude of the past was we don't care where any of this is made for security reasons, but also because it's about our economy and how we create the economy of the future. We want this. Right. We want this stuff made in Britain. This is what our whole strategy, the investments we're making, is all about.
Okay. Last question, which is a personal question. Are you looking forward to debating the local boy Jeremy Clarkson when he contests your Doncaster seat at the next election?
I think he's a sort of long-standing aspirant to my seat. I think he said in 2013 that he was going to contest my seat. So look, it's for other people to decide if they want to stand for Parliament, including in my seat. I welcome all comers. You know, let's see what happens.
Okay, I'll look forward to covering that one. Ed Miliband, thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks.